Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on my video. I felt I needed to make this video. I am not really trying to start a channel, I'm not trying to monetize, I'm not looking for renown, I'm not even going to show my face in this clip. And so if you want to subscribe, please feel free to do so. I suppose there might be occasions in which I talk about other things in the future. There might not be. If you want to like this video, dislike it, comment on it, that's all fine. I just felt, as it were, impelled to comment. And the comment that I'm making is about the ongoing feud between Sam Seder of the Majority Report and Jimmy Dore of the Young Turks and the Jimmy Dore Show. And it largely concerns the fact that Sam voted for Hillary Clinton and pushed Hillary Clinton in the months before the 2016 election, and Jimmy ended up voting for Dr. Stein, and each of them really believe that the other is not responsible necessarily, but bears some of the ignominy for that strategy in getting Trump elected. And so this flared up again this week because Jimmy had done a clip that was critical of Keith Ellison, and Sam took that clip, took some of that clip, and was critical of Jimmy for being critical of Keith Ellison. And so that prompted a lot of comments and several reaction videos from around the internet. And people have pretty much come down on one side or the other as to Sam was right, Jimmy was right, Sam was wrong, Jimmy was wrong. And so I want to go over both arguments, and I want to determine who I think is correct and about what they are correct about. And the reason, before I do that, the reason that I want to do that is that the Democratic Party and or the left, Jimmy doesn't consider himself a Democrat, are very capable of losing to Trump again in 2020 if they don't sort this out. I think it's a fundamental issue and a fundamental fight between the two sides of the party. And so I think it's important, when there are so many months before the midterms and so many months before the 2019 fall, in which the campaign season starts, to be able to really delve into this issue and see if we can get some resolution. So Sam's general points, I think, are: you had two choices, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. After the primary, I think Sam supported Bernie Sanders in the primary. But once you got to those two choices, it doesn't matter that Hillary was less than great on certain policies, that she wasn't a perfect candidate by any stretch. I think Sam would admit that. But you can't have Donald Trump. We cannot sustain this nightmare of Trump. You had to do everything in your power to vote against him and to make sure that as many people voted against him as possible. And so when you see him talking now about, well, the destruction of the EPA, the creep of ICE, our education department is now run by a Christian dominionist who wants to defund public education. The Housing and Urban Development Chair, that's Ben Carson, knows nothing about housing and urban development. Rick Perry, the Secretary of Energy, now knows nothing at all about his department. We have basically just criminals and zealots and liars and hypocrites and lunatics all over the administration, and we've given them essentially total power. And then he finds it unconscionably obtuse for Jimmy to have had any opinion by which Hillary was not obviously the better choice out of these two people, which were the only people that really had a chance to win. So we hear stories on the Majority Report, which are like, the FCC chair, hey, Trump disappointed him, he wants to kill net neutrality. Thank you a lot, Jimmy Dore. Trump is about to defund Planned Parenthood. That's another thank you, Jimmy, for allowing this. A lot of Sam's argument against Jimmy is Jimmy pretty much believed, or I might be straw-manning this somewhat. I think Sam might be straw-manning it a little bit. Trump won't be so bad. We'll grin and bear the Supreme Court appointment. The Democrats will regroup, take back power. there'll be a great movement of people in 2018 and 2020. This will end up being a win. And then Sam would say to that, Trump is shattering the country into 1,000 pieces. He's only been in office 70 days. This is already one of the darkest stretches in American history. The Democrats are not changing their strategy. They're barely fighting. And even if we get the best people, they're barely going to get us back to the baseline of where we were 3 months ago. I mean, at least a decade might be required to clean up just 1 year of Trump's administration, and that's if we get the perfect progressive into office, which there's really no guarantee, no evidence that that can happen. And then also, if that person's policies are adopted by a Congress that doesn't seem like they're interested in working with the progressive left either. And, Bernie Sanders is going to be 78 years old. Elizabeth Warren may or may not choose to run. You don't have this huge bench of progressives right now that are right on the doorstep of taking over power. And meanwhile, while you're screwing around with the Green Party and Jill Stein, who just cannot feasibly win, the country's burning down. And you really had an obligation to tell your audience that this was not only possible, but really quite likely if Trump won. And the fact that you are still saying, "Oh no, it won't be so bad. No, we made the right decision," or just this is a better long-term strategy. These are not defensible points at this time. It's the wrong time in history. It was the wrong candidate to do this with. You can't fool around with Trump. It was the wrong strategy. The correct strategy is to elect Hillary and pressure her toward the left, then elect the next Democrat, and you keep on moving until you get to where you want. And that is the essence, I think, of Sam's argument. The essence of what I think Jimmy's argument is, there are a couple of different layers to it. One of them that I think most people are focusing on is, well, things were already pretty bad under Obama. We're already bombing 7 countries. We have militarized police. We have out-of-control banks. We have fracking all over the world. Half the country's in poverty. Jimmy says all these things all the time. And he points to Standing Rock, and he says, look at what happened in Standing Rock. You had police, militarized police, that the state sanctioned to beat up protesters, put journalists in prison for trying to cover the story. They allowed the corporation to break the law because it wasn't their land, it was the Native Americans' land. And they're doing all of this so that they can pollute the water. And what is Trump really going to do that's worse than imprisoning journalists, polluting water, cracking the heads of protesters, enabling the police to do anything they want to, enabling corporate malfeasance? These were all things happening under Obama. And not only can you make that parallel, but who were the Democrats that were standing up at Standing Rock? Who were the Democrats that were even interested or even talking about it during the time in which Obama was in office? Bernie Sanders was there. He's not a Democrat. Almost nobody else even put out a statement, let alone went there. And so you don't have this situation in which the Democrats are really fighting for your side on this. You just have, well, they're the best that we've got, but the best that we've got is really not good enough, according to Jimmy's argument. And he said if Trump is in office, Democrats will wake up, and everybody will be protesting these same policies, whereas you won't get those protests under Hillary because she's going to put the left to sleep. They don't want to give aid to the Republicans that are bashing her. So he generally says it's the death of the progressive energy in the country right now. If she's the president, one half will be loyal to her, and it's going to turn on the other half, and that's essentially what is going to kill this Bernie Sanders movement that we have right now. And with Trump, everybody rises up. Meanwhile, as Jimmy says, Trump is so incompetent and so disliked that there'll be dissension all over the GOP, and we've seen some of that happening. And I think one more thing before I make my ruling that is overlooked as part of Jimmy's rationale is he says if Hillary is president, she'll be so unpopular after 4 years of the left seeing how hollow her promises are. She only barely would have won in 2016, and that's before the disappointment is setting in among the Democrats. Republicans, of course, hate her. They're not going to start siding with her regardless of what she does. And we've just seen a big red wave in 2010 against the Democratic president, a big red wave in 2014. There's no reason to believe that there wouldn't be another one in 2018. The map looks terrible for Democrats in 2018, as it is. And then in 2020, you basically run any halfway competent Republican, and they're running against 12 years of the Obama-Hillary trajectory, and I think that there's massive demoralization on the left, and there's a huge amount of galvanization on the right, and that Republican takes over in 2020, and then you get most of the same policies. You get the defunding of Planned Parenthood, you get a Supreme Court justice who is right-wing, you get the you get all of the rollbacks of regulations. Meanwhile, you lose the momentum that you have now, because you don't really solve any of the problems, because, as he says, neoliberalism is not really able or even interested in solving a lot of the problems that we have in the country right now. And so you're perpetuating the cycle, which gets worse and worse because we don't stand up to neoliberalism. We don't draw our line in the sand, so there's nothing that they won't take from us. And then you get a Republican anyway who does the same things. It's not a solution at all. So basically, Sam thinks that Jimmy is being a purist to the point of wrecking the country. Jimmy thinks that Sam is being an apologist to the point of wrecking the country. Both can point to examples defending themselves against those charges, and both can point to examples of the other one saying things that they find, objectionable. So who's right?